I'm Philippe Pellerin. I'm a board member and investor with Dragon Q Energy. Welcome this morning, everyone, to our second investor open house. Today with me, we've got Dan Casey, founder and CEO of Dragon Q Energy, the vision and
Hello.
creative force behind our organization.
Mhm, mhm.
We've also got Sean Casey, our chief commercial officer in charge of the business end of the organization, managing the company's overall commercial strategy, including driving revenue and growth. And joining us today is Todd Ostomel, our outside counsel for Dragon Q, responsible for global intellectual property strategy and portfolio management. And we've also got Liam Casey with us today, our chief marketing officer. And so before we jump in, we're going to be having a panel discussion today, but before we jump in, we hope you'll enjoy the short 1 minute intro video that highlights the scope and scale of the immense need and opportunity that Dragon Q is helping to solve in the world. Liam, if you'll cue the video.
Electrification is reshaping the global landscape at unprecedented speed, fueling record levels of investment to meet soaring electricity demand across every sector. Worldwide consumption is projected to more than double by 2060, signaling a new era of energy expansion and technological interdependence. In the United States, battery storage capacity surged by 66% in 2024 alone, with more than $110 billion committed to domestic deployment over the next 7 years. Mobilizing innovation and capital at a scale unmatched in all of human history, Dragon Q stands at the forefront of this transformation with a safe, robust, and efficient battery solution. This global wave of electrification will define the trajectory of economies, societies, and the human experience for generations to come. The future of batteries is here, and it's powered by Dragon Q Energy.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Liam. And thank you again, everyone, for joining. So in our last call, we focused a lot on the technology itself. And so today we're going to focus more on the opportunity. Why Dragon Q Energy is positioned for scale, what milestones we've hit, and the traction that we're already experiencing in the market. Our mission is to deliver safe, robust, and efficient underground energy storage for defense, humanitarian, telecom, commercial lighting, and critical infrastructure markets. To quickly go over the tech overview, we're going to talk about the problem that Dragon Q is solving today. Sean, you and I were talking earlier, and we're going to get into it now. What is the fundamental human problem that we're solving?
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for attending today. So, on a basic level, even for the non-battery chemists and scientists and the layperson who's even vaguely familiar with lithium-ion batteries, they're probably aware of the propensity for fire. They might have even heard the term thermal runaway. Um, and that is the fundamental human problem that Dragon Q is solving with our battery product. Um, our core technology utilizes a pressurized container to put the battery cells and pack into. We remove the oxygen from that pack by drawing a vacuum on it, and then that vacuum is backfilled and overpressured with argon, which is an inert gas. So these two combinations, the removal of the oxygen and the addition of the argon, basically remove the conditions where fire can take place and fire can occur. And it also leaves us with a pretty robust canister that we can do some really unique things with in the battery that are kind of don't really exist in the battery industry today.
Thank you, Sean. And we're going to get more into the tech a little bit later when we talk about the IP. But for our guests today, you can see some of our products that are either currently in the, you know, just barely going to market strategy, like the 7.5 kilowatt hour battery pack. Towards the right, you're getting into more of our early prototype stages of our data center battery pack. but this gives you a really good visual representation of that. Dan, if we can, let's talk a little bit with the fundamentals of where the company is at today. What's our
Sure.
current monthly burn rate, and what are we going to be doing with the capital that we're raising?
I
Sure.
think
Yeah.
that one's me.
Yeah, you
Oh,
want to
go
take it,
ahead.
Sean? Yeah. I'll jump in
Okay.
if you want as well. But yeah, go ahead.
No, no, yeah. So on a basic level, we're currently spending about $120,000 a month. That's projected to carry on through the next 6 months. And through this fundraise, we're expecting to raise $4 million, which will carry us through approximately spring of 2027. So end of Q1, beginning of Q2. Um, if we look at the slide that's currently being displayed, it's going to show some of the major areas where we're going to be utilizing these funds, putting that investment money to work. Right off the top, our first order of business is to get this is technology validation and certification. This is going to be our UN and UL underwriters laboratory certifications to ensure we're putting a safe product out on the market. Next is going to be talent and leadership. Already with the money we've raised, we're putting together a hire for a chief operating officer and some helpers for Dan in the lab. And actually, speaking of lab, our next one, we've been kind of elbow to elbow in a tech incubator off campus at UC Santa Barbara, and we're looking at a couple spaces out there that'll allow us to grow and expand without needing to be stepping on one another all the time. Next big chunk is going to be market entry. This is it's going to look like improved website development of some marketing collateral, events, technical partnerships, pilot programs. Really, the keyword for our market entry is going to be traction, building a brand awareness for the Dragon Q products and name, and making sure that people understand what we do. And then the next big one is going to be supply chain. So this is everything from warehouses to manufacturing and logistics, and how we deliver our product. And then last, we've got a contingency 10% reserve, and this is for our rainy day unexpected expenses.
Sean. And Sean, can you also walk us through the revenue projections that underpin our financial outlook, specifically what we expect to achieve once certification is complete and we can begin accepting orders?
Yeah, actually, I think we've got a slide for that one too. Liam, can you go to the might be a burn rate slide?
Yeah.
No, next one. Sorry. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so this is gonna basically show not only how we're utilizing the capital raise, but also on the bottom section some expected sales. So during the seed round, the next 18 months after certification, we're hoping to sell 200 units, and that's pretty small, but we want to focus on doing each baby step right. So we're looking at 200 units. It's going to bring in about 1.5 million in revenue. During that same period, we're also expecting to see some royalty and licensing revenue. And in fact, I'm really excited about just the level of interest from some pretty big players in the battery and electrical and lighting space that are already approaching us to have conversations about licensing. So we're hoping to see some significant revenue come in from that. And then
Sean,
also some paid R&D and licensing. Sure.
Sean, do we want to talk a little bit about our first licensing opportunity with Spitzer and also the verticals with 16500 and Vertex maybe?
Yeah, we can jump in right in there a little bit. So one of the conversations we've been having is with a company called Spitzer Electric and Spitzer Lighting. They're actually one of the largest lighting manufacturers in the world. And just in a conversation Dan was having in our lab with one of their production engineers as how much he'd like to have a smaller unit, both in capacity and form factor and size, to integrate with some of their current solar lighting products.
And Sean,
And, you know,
Sean, this is one of those examples where by the dozens and hundreds, people are coming to us with these opportunities, and we can't build everything. So,
yep,
when I was having this conversation with Howard from Spitzer Lighting, we started formulating concepts around, licensing of the contract manufacturing of the tube manufacturing, and now they're picking up a lot of that, and might even come in with an investment as part of a joint venture. But yeah, a smaller 12 volt, 24 volt battery pack that support it doesn't sound very exciting, but like sidewalk bollards for like corporate campuses and college campuses, and
yeah.
street lights for parking lots and things. But in the numbers of like
But to the
50,000
tune of
units a
tens of
year.
thousands of units.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's compelling. And
yeah,
that's just
yeah.
one. And then our strategy is not to say, yeah, we'll build that, but hey, that's a good idea. You should license that.
Yeah, and just to, yeah, I guess kind of conclude this section, Dan. One of the things that excites me the most uh about this technology is it's the applications are literally limited only by the imagination. Like we frequently have to stop in our meetings, like, hey, okay, we're kind of chasing squirrels here, but it's just once the imagination gets going about applications on these batteries from like marine, submarine use, electrical, telecom, it just kind of keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, but
And
where the rubber's meeting the road, we have first POs coming in, and then purchase orders and potential orders lining up for overseas deployments, humanitarian support in Africa. We're getting connected to some really neat programs, and that's where some of the first orders are going to go. And hitting 200 units a year might not sound sexy or too attractive, but there's a decent revenue markup there, and
yeah,
the order flows there.
Well, and Dan, Sean, thank you both for that. So if I can kind of summarize and repeat a couple of these things back to you. So out of this seed, what we're looking to do in the next 12 to 18 months is build our first 200 units and sell them. And if I understand correctly, a big goal of that production run is to really educate the market, both in terms of fulfilling orders that we've already got interest in from folks in the humanitarian space that are already ready to buy our batteries, but also to start disseminating our battery technology into the market so that people can learn about the technology that we'll talk about the IP around it in a minute, but essentially the new ways of packaging and deploying batteries that are applicable to many industries and many different iterations. And that kind of product awareness will give rise to these licensing opportunities, which will eventually lead to royalties. Is
Yeah.
that a
yeah.
fair way to
We
say
should have
that?
just hired you to say that, Philippe.
Well,
But
I just
these,
want to
yeah,
remind everyone we are not professional presenters, but we're here to talk about something that we're all really excited about. And, I
well,
think it's great that we have the tech side of it and we have kind of the outsider perspective in someone
we are
who's
very
not
much
tech.
paying attention to these initial users, and the data coming off these first installations and pilot projects is very valuable. And yeah, we're happy to have that information.
So we talked a little bit about the site lighting initiative. Dan or Sean, do either of you want to mention the super capacity integration that we've talked about?
Sure, sure, I can.
That's in Dan's net. Yeah, that's Dan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, the licensing and as far as like size, cost, simplicity on the far left of the spectrum is the smaller units for Spitzer lighting in a high quantity. On the far right side is larger, more expensive units, and we're conceptualizing and even getting the green light to prototype some of these initial larger capacity data center power products from ranging from batteries to large scale. And I'm just going to say the word sinister supercapacitors of like nothing has ever existed. And there's such a demand on the power side from data centers. And some of our partners were here looking at what we're building, and they saw it. They saw that with our and for anyone who wants to go deep into like our pack architecture or other things like that, we can certainly do a breakout. I'd be happy to spend time with people, invite you to the facility, or even do a online breakout. But because of the way we build the battery packs inside our patented technology, it doesn't lend itself just to battery cells or cylindrical cells. It could be, larger prismatics and other types of cells, but also supercapacitors. And we've put together a concept sheet on a large format supercapacitor that's just the prototype alone can support 1 megawatt of power. And now keep in mind, these are not energy storage and they're not rated in capacity, but in their absolute power they can deliver almost instantaneously. And just our prototype alone can support 1 megawatt of power for a half a second to 1 second. And then it also does have the capacity to provide lesser power for up to 30 seconds, which is unprecedented for supercapacitors used in data center.
Dan, just to chime in real quick,
Yeah.
just so in the product mix in a data center scenario, if there is a power interruption, the supercapacitor would kick in immediately with that initial punch of power and be almost immediately within a second or two backed up by the deeper supply of the battery, and then those fill in until the generators can kick on. Is that an accurate?
Load interruption, sure, but mostly like a load change. If like a big load gets thrown on the grid, or if a compute stops, it's those fluctuations and the ripple effect, really literally a ripple and in the voltage, and these supercapacitors will condition or smooth that voltage. But yeah, absolutely. The mix is of power. The power stack is supercapacitors, batteries, and then for longer term use with a grid failure would be diesel or natural gas generators. But yeah, something compelling that hasn't existed, and we're getting really compelling support for this product on the to get that developed and out to the market.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you, Sean. Thank you guys for delving into those. So for our audience, sorry, I promised we weren't going to make this a tech call. So if you didn't understand any of that, let us know, or we'll again refer you back to the notes and the recording from our last call, or we can schedule one-on-one to delve into that. But so if I'm understanding it correctly, we've got this seed round, we have these prototypes that are just about ready to go to market. And what we're going to be doing over the next 12 to 18 months is we're going to build the first 200 of those batteries, and we're going to sell those first 200. And that's going to be our first $2 million of revenue. We're going to be educating the market on the benefits of our technology, what makes them safe, resilient, and robust.
Efficient.
And efficient. And through that process, we're going to be building towards this annual revenue that we're projecting for 2027, 2028 in that $5 to $7 million of annual revenue range. That's the ultimate goal. Sean, can you speak a little bit to how we've kind of come up with our current pre-money and post-money values, how those were determined, and then sort of what's coming after this seed round?
Yeah, sure thing. Let's see here. I'm kind of switching hats here a little bit. So let's talk about our post-money valuation. Actually, let's start with pre-money. So pre-money valuation is before the current seed rounds are committed and credited to the company. So we started out with a $36 million pre-money valuation. And how that number was accomplished is looking at the overall value of what we've delivered so far. And as I indicated earlier in our raise, like we've really in the last 2 years we've operated on Dan's initial founder's contribution and a friend and family raise and a couple of grants that total less than $1 million. Yet we've got a battery that is almost ready to go to market, going through certification. And, this is something that costs other companies millions of dollars. So once we demonstrate this technology in our process, um, I don't want to quite say wash, rinse, repeat, but the fundamental building blocks for uh, expanding both the size and uh, adaptability of the battery for different uses, going from data centers to grid to the supercapacitor that Dan mentioned. Those are all going to be lining up one after the other, and our ability to move from one to the other is driven by investment capital. Um, so during our seed round, we're hoping to get to revenues of between $5 and $7 million. At the end of that 18-month seed round, so spring of 2027, um, we have one of two options. We can move forward into a Series A if our capital needs are uh, beyond what we think we can operate from other methods. Ideally, most companies don't want to give away equity. But on the other side of that, uh, equity doesn't need to be paid back. Like if we were to borrow the money, it's an asset of the company and it's put together, put to use for all the investors.
Hey, Sean,
Um, yep.
should we talk a bit about non-dilutive grants and different things we have shaping up from U.S. Army,
Yeah.
Navy, Department of Homeland Security, and how
Yeah.
that impacts our
So
use of funds?
Yeah, so let me kind of finish
Oh, sure.
with this series. So we may get to a point at the end of this raise where we can say, okay, we can continue operating the business on cash flow generated by sales and our licensing and grants and other items, and we might not need to sell any more equity. Alternatively, we might want to kind of uh, take a bigger bite at the apple, which requires more capital, and that would put us into like a Series A. This is generally where your venture capital is going to come in, and we might start seeing, so instead of a $4 million round, a Series A might typically be 10 to 15 million and carry us out for maybe a period of 2 to 3 years. Um, as Dan brought up, we have some incredible grant opportunities. We're exploring one right now with the military's automotive battery. It's called a 6T or 6 Tango battery. And that's the military or NATO application of a lithium ion automotive battery. And they're experiencing the same issues that everyone else is. And there's a grant out there to solve a problem that our IP, our
Yeah,
intellectual property solves,
yeah, spot
which
on.
is reducing thermal runaway to smoke only. So we've
Yeah,
got a
we can
number of
exceed
these
that,
grant
right? Yeah.
opportunities. Yeah, we can do better than that.
Yep.
So that is just to illustrate one of many. There's, DOE, military, government. There's an abundance of grant opportunities here. And the great thing about grants is they're non-dilutive. So they're giving us money to solve a specific problem. It just goes into our operating budget and is not offset by a sale of equity, and we don't have to pay it back.
Yeah, but going through the next 18 months, we'll have revenue, we'll have grants coming in, licensing money coming in. So
Yeah.
the use of funds and pro forma P&L is very quite conservative.
Yeah, our
One
our
of
capital mix is pretty unique.
Thank you for delving into that. And Liam, thanks for pulling up this slide. I think it's a really good tie-in. We're seeking to accomplish this 5 to 7 million a year in revenue over the next 2 to 3 years. And what we're really looking at in terms of our addressable market, we're targeting this $100 million sort of subset of this broader battery market. And really our goal is to be 5% of that. And so, it's really a very kind of low bar compared to what the potential opportunity is. And I think harkening back to those licensing opportunities that
Yeah.
you and Dan were talking about are really compelling as we,
Well, if
again, educate the market with our prototype.
and Philippe, if I could jump in here on this slide, uh, anybody who's ever looked at any pitch that has a Tam Sam Sam slide on it, kind of does some eye roll on the total addressable market here. But I want to point out, and as the opening video explained, we are participating in the largest deployment of capital in human history right now.
With a differentiated
It's
product.
it's expected that in the next not 30 years, not 20 years, but in the next 10 years, worldwide, $25 trillion dollars are going to be invested in renewable energy and electrification, and batteries play a major role in that. So when we say we're looking at a total $68 billion addressable market, like those numbers are hard to fathom, but unlike the cupcake Tam Sam Sam, it's a real number.
Hmm.
And we've got a unique product that isn't going to be the right fit for 90%, 95% of the market, but that 5% where it is, we're the only solution available. And more than that, we're actually going to be growing and creating new markets where batteries can't currently go. So
Yeah, where it's hot, near shore, downtown locations, things like that. Yep.
yep.
Guys, I
So
think that's the perfect segue, um, because I feel like you guys have done a great job explaining our go-to-market, what the next 12 to 18 months will look like for us. But I want to go ahead and introduce Todd Ostomel. Todd is Dragon Q Energy's intellectual property attorney. Todd is a partner at Squire Patton Boggs, and works out of Palo Alto. Todd helps entrepreneurs and inventors develop and manage global patent and trade secret portfolios for protecting and monetizing inventions and ideas in the fields of inorganic and organic chemistry, electrochemistry, material science, and biotechnology. Todd, welcome.
Thank
You
you,
have a
Philippe.
rather unique educational background. Could you tell us more about that and your decision to focus on the law?
Yeah, in my previous life, I was a chemist. I got a PhD in chemistry from UC Santa Barbara back in 2006. And when I was there, the university patented and licensed some of the technology that I was working on as a graduate student. And towards the end of my graduate career, I was working more with patent attorneys than I was with professors. And that inspired me to follow in their footsteps and become a patent attorney myself, and try to help engineers and scientists and entrepreneurs that were similarly situated protect and monetize the next generation of innovation.
Amazing. Thank you. And in line with that and helping develop Dragon Q's intellectual property strategy, can you describe some of the goals that you're implementing for the company?
Our goals are to develop a robust intellectual property portfolio that includes both patents and trade secrets. The portfolio will help Dragon Q protect their revenue generating products and at the same time ensure freedom to operate in the markets in which they will be selling products. And the trade secrets provide an additional revenue opportunity aside from the patents with regard to partnerships and downstream licensing opportunities.
Obviously, without disclosing any of our confidential information, could you explain some of the differences between patents and trade secrets?
Sure. Yeah, patents and trade secrets are one of the two types of intellectual property, the other two being copyrights and trademarks, and they are each a unique bundle of rights. These are property rights. So patents are exclusive rights that are granted by governments for limited amounts of time. Typically, that's 20 years from when you file your patent, and the rights are within the jurisdiction of the granting government. And these are exclusive rights. So the patent is the right to exclude others from making, using, selling, offering to sell, or importing your invention. And trade secrets are a different bundle of rights. Trade secrets protect confidential information that is economically valuable because it's not generally known or readily accessible and is subject to secrecy measures that are reasonable under the circumstances. Trade secrets protect a much broader category of information than patents, and they have a different bundle of rights associated with them. With trade secrets, you have the right against misappropriation, which is sort of the unlawful or unauthorized use of that information. So with DragonQ, they've developed a lot of proprietary know-how in how they manufacture their batteries and use their batteries. And to the extent that they share that information with partners and customers, there is restrictions on the use of that information to the extent that that information is a trade secret. And so trade secrets and patents really kind of go together like two sides of the same coin, um, in helping to protect innovation.
Wonderful. Where and sorry to throw this one at you as a bit of a curveball, but where is Dragon Q kind of in the patent process towards securing patents for our initial prototype?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, what I can say is what's on the public record. So, Dragon Q has a published international patent application that has been nationally filed in a variety of jurisdictions, including the United States, South Korea, China, Japan, India, across Europe. And that application is undergoing national stage examination. And we also have a robust continuation strategy associated with that. So you'll notice the published patent application has a series of inventions included in it, and each of those is being patented in its own right.
Wonderful. You've been doing this for a long time. What aspect of Dragon Q Energy do you find most exciting?
One of the things that I find most exciting about Dragon Q is the focus on safety. Batteries have to be bought by customers, and customers have to have confidence that not only will the product operate as intended, but that there's no safety considerations that they have to worry about. And with Dragon Q, you can install these batteries in the ground, in buildings, in vehicles, in airplanes, and there is an emphasis from the beginning production on safety. So these are batteries that are, argon filled and have special pressure operated mechanisms that ensure that should thermal runaway occur, no fires are going to propagate. No people are going to be hurt by this. And when you're installing batteries the way that Dragon Q is proposing to do so, having safety as your paramount concern is a real value additive.
Todd, can I jump in there for a second? Of
Yeah,
course.
please, Dan.
Yeah, thanks. We just had a visitor in the shop. This lady builds out white spaces in data centers, and everybody talks about their product being bankable, but then we, just roundtable conversation came up on this concept that with the safety aspect of our product going into data centers and the current limitations on lithium ion battery systems being installed close to these new expensive high performance compute servers and racks is the insurance aspect, and we're coming at it from an insurability standpoint, and that's going to be our focus as we go into this data center side. And of course, then insurability leads to ultimately bankability. And it's something that we can do that others cannot do at this point in time.
Thanks for adding that, Dan. Yeah, and I think that kind of brings us full circle. We talked a little bit about the tech today and why Dragon Q Energy's tech is so unique in the market. We talked a little bit about our go-to-market strategy, where we expect our revenue to come from over the next 2 years, and how that drives value for the company. And we've talked a little bit today about IP, the intellectual property and trade secrets, and how those create a moat for Dragon Q around this unique technology that brings truly a safe battery to the market that can be deployed in places and in ways that doesn't currently exist on the market today. And so I think coming back at the end there to Dan's point that having a battery that is safe is going to drive value for our customer in terms of, lower insurance premiums on top of the already, uh, uh, tangible benefits of lower heat, less cooling necessary, smaller real estate footprint, faster deployability, alongside being safer. It drives a lot of value for our customers as well. So
Philippe, can I touch on one last value we
you
got in
can
there that I
absolutely
haven't
touch
touched on yet?
on anything you want, Dan.
Ooh, great. Thanks. Um, we focus on maintaining the integrity of our battery pack and the robust container. And we have this like stepwise process to vent a pack in the event of thermal runaway. And we can contain upwards of 8 cells going into thermal runaway before we vent anything. So we have all these extra steps in place before the smoke, before the fire. But then what? Again, there's things that we can do that other battery packs, really no other battery pack manufacturer that I know of can do, but we have an engineered pathway in the ultimate event of like a total failure where it's just like, oh yeah, this battery is going to catch on fire and burn. We have an engineered pathway where we can get the thermal runaway, the smoke, the fumes, the fire. We can get it, what we say, overboard in like the maritime sense, but in like a data center, we can get all that bad stuff away from the expensive equipment. We can get all that bad stuff away from occupants of a vehicle. We can get all that bad stuff away from people who live in homes and houses and other things like that. And that's one value that we haven't talked about yet, but it's something that we can do that other people cannot do, which makes us differentiated.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, and you've mentioned differentiated a couple times on the call today. I mean, for any of our panelists, I'll start with a question, and obviously, if we have any questions from the audience, we'd love to answer those because I think we're pretty much concluded with the presentation. Is there a battery currently on the market, or are there any patents pending that we're aware of that approximate Dragon Q's, differentiated approach to packaging a battery?
Well, I'll jump in and take the first swing at that one, Philippe. The answer is obviously yes. There are a wide variety of battery solutions available on the market today. Starting from like, we call them the white box battery solutions that, could be a shipping container out on a solar farm, all the way to, what people might be more familiar with, like a Tesla Powerwall. But with the certifications that we're going to be going after and the demonstrated safety aspects of that certification and the physical characteristics of our packs, we're going to be able to deliver a battery that is safer than a Tesla Powerwall at less cost, and you won't have to utilize a space on your wall in your garage. So we're talking about putting this battery to work where space is constrained. Think about how much the value a couple square feet of your garage is, where these Tesla Powerwalls are going. Instead, they can go under the garage floor with a manhole cover, or they could go outside the garage, anywhere. And then scale that up to data centers, skyscrapers, things like that.
Yeah. Downtown locations. You can't put a
Yep.
5-acre battery energy storage farm in a downtown location. Just can't do it.
Yep. And then, one really interesting use that Dan and I had presented to us, I'm going to murder this, Point Hanumi,
Port Hueneme.
naval base, Point Hueneme, naval base, just outside of Ventura. The port manager approached us to express their dismay about, I want to say it was a $30 million installation of a Powerwall or a Tesla battery solution out on the pier, which was intended to provide shore power to ships that are in port. And that's so they don't need to run their dirty diesel and oil engines in port and pollute the neighborhood. So they installed this, and the first big storm that came through, it shorted out the entire system, and now they've got a $30 million paperweight out at the end of their pier that they can't use. These are solutions where we can provide a more suitable solution that is going to be able to survive the environment where they're installed.
Kind of jump in there too. I forget the original question, but I think this goes along the thread, even though I don't remember what the question was. But on the IP side, as Todd was doing our patentability report, most of the similar type IP was around like oil and gas energy companies with batteries for like drilling heads and these other really, really hard applications. And there's three or four of them, and Todd can extend on this if I don't cover it quite that well. But um, our type of battery pack is fit for that type of application, but we're making an affordable, marketable solution that solves all these problems. And anyways, that's where the most of the alignment from the IP side was with our technology.
Yeah, thank you for adding that, guys. And Todd, you mentioned kind of the stage of the IP presently. What's the steps from here for, I guess, the finalization of the IP, if you will?
Yeah, man, it's a great question. I think, the finalization of the applications that have been filed is that we've got to get examination disposed of. We have been accelerating several of our applications in various jurisdictions, including the United States. So we expect half of those applications to be examined within the next year at max. And then, there's always new IP that we're filing as well. So that new IP will continue to evergreen and grow the portfolio. And so it's sort of an iterative process in the sense that you file an application, it gets examined 2 or 3 years later. And in the process, you're filing new applications that are also getting in that same, assembly line and getting placed in the queue for examination as well. So, by the end of the year, we'll start seeing the first patents percolate out of Dragon Queue, and then, patents published 18 months after they're filed. So shortly thereafter, we'll start seeing more applications published that we've been filing in the queue, and yeah, the portfolio will grow from there.
I always like
Yeah.
to say that we're innovating in a place where no one else is innovating, and we know what the view looks like from here, and we're springboarding off of our position. So it's really making a really compelling IP situation for us.
How many patents is Dragon Q currently seeking?
Uh, well, again, I can only speak to what's publicly available. There's a lot
Okay.
that's not publicly available right now. So we've got about 8 to 10 pending that are published. And again, we'll start seeing those mature in the next year.
And then you mentioned that it's kind of an iterative process. So I understand you can't necessarily speak to it, but we have 8 to 10 that are, I guess, filed and or in some stage of filing and under some stage of review. And then additional ones are being identified, and we're continuing to file more patents. So hopefully over the next 2 years, kind of that seed round phase that we're talking about, we'll start seeing some of those patents become. What's the word when they're approved? Do you call it like perfected? Do you call it approved? What's the
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah. So when you have an application filed, it's a patent application, and that would be a pending application. Once it gets allowed, that's the terminology where the patent office says you have shown that you've met all the patent requirements. Now your application is allowed, and then if you pay the formalities and the fees, you get a granted patent. So the granted patent is what you can actually then use for enforcement actions. Um, but yeah, pending, allowed, and then granted.
so and
And
we're in
and
the
Philippe, if
pending.
I could jump
Yeah.
into one of the things that Todd has tasked us with to go to work on, beside the patents, is cracking open Dan's brain and documenting a lot of the trade secrets. So this is, the how and the methodology behind what we're doing.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of that going on behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, there's compelling stuff coming out every day, and I've got my strengths and weaknesses, but developing new battery systems that are marketable, compelling, useful. Yep, it's just what I can do.
So during that pending phase, we're planning to go to market. Are our patents secure and our technology secure even as we start selling units with patents pending?
Sure, because we've got an earlier filing date. So those applications that are pending right now have been filed well over a year ago. When you consider the priority applications or the provisional applications that they claim priority to. So yeah, the patent rights, once they're granted, it's for that full 20-year term from when they were filed, and that's already occurred.
Nice. And so even now, like to Sean's points about the licensing opportunity, Sean and Dan's points, we can all already go ahead and feel confident in licensing our tech without concern that our tech will be stolen or anything like that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I mean, we filed our applications first. The trade secrets are also securely stored. So for partnership opportunities, we're well positioned. And we're a first to file universe now, the US as well as most of the other countries around the world. So, anyone that files a patent after you can't get a patent on the same invention. If you file first, then you're the owner of that invention.
Todd, there's been some remarkably close technology coming out just months after our filings, hasn't there?
There might have been, yeah,
You might
it
not
might have been
remember, but
that
I
patent
did.
search that we looked at. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that concludes my questions. Liam, do we have any questions from the audience that we should delve into?
I'm not seeing any right now, but if you guys look at the bottom, there's a Q&A button down there, and you should be able to open it and type any questions you may have.
Seeing none. Well, without any questions, we're at 10:48. I feel like we're right on schedule. We're happy to answer any other questions, but absent seeing any, I just want to say Todd, Sean, Liam, Dan, thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate your answers to all the questions and
Oh, by the way,
being
Philippe, I
engaged.
just got one more
Yeah.
thing that came in.
Okay, got some hot off the presses, Dan?
Yeah, literally hot off the press. I
One more
start my
thing.
yeah. Oh, by the way, um, I start my work week on Sunday nights, and that's when I can start talking with our overseas engineers, and it's their Monday morning. And last night was the same, and started talking to my overseas engineers. I was typing up a couple emails, getting ready for a big event we have coming up this week. I got invited to a family office retreat. Our whole family is invited in Austin, Texas, and there's 100 family offices are invited. Manufacturers, investors, military personnel, everybody from U.S. Army, Audi, others. And also, just like a little side note of this recent news, one of our partners in the humanitarian space is Unite to Light. Unite to Light has helped us with loans, with first purchase orders, with a lot of other things. And I just took the opportunity. I saw the time was right to ask for a philanthropic donation to Unite to Light, and I just queued up this quick email asking for a measly $400,000 for a 32 units and a pilot project in Zambia. And it's something that the Dragon Q Energy team has been working on, and we're partnering actually with Schneider Electric on an access to energy program. And we're also bringing in Unite to Light into this program. So I typed up this quick email last night, sent it to our hosts to this event. I said, hey, if you guys know, here's an intention that we have, a goal for the event. And I already got answers, and I've got intros lined up, and I see coming away from that event next week with a certain amount of fundraising equity, some military and government grants, and then also $400,000 for a humanitarian project in Africa. And where the rubber meets the road, that means units. Out of our 200 units in the next 18 months, there's 32 of them right there. So that's just shaped up. That email came in while we're on this call, and I thought that would be relevant to this group.
Thank you for sharing that, Dan.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody.
Well, we'll be doing this again at some point in the future, and so we'll keep everybody in the loop, and we'll also be circulating the recording from today's call. If you have any questions or would like to schedule a one-on-one with Sean or Liam, please reach out. And otherwise, again, Todd, Sean, Liam, Dan, thank you all very much. Good job.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.